Okay, so in this half, we're going to go through the post-production process. So a photo shoot, to me, and some people may disagree with this, by the way, and that's fine. But to me, a photo shoot consists of two parts, the shoot itself and the post-production. I always liken it to the electric guitar. Does anybody play electric guitar in here? Right. The electric guitar. I promise I won't digress too far. The electric guitar is basically a guitar and an amplifier. If you play an electric guitar without the amplifier, it doesn't make a lot of sound. It's really quiet. It doesn't sound like an electric guitar at all. It just sounds like a twinkly, twinkly, twinkly. It doesn't sound very good. It's very quiet as well. Brilliant for the neighbors if you want to practice at midnight. The amp on itself, the amplifier on its own doesn't make a sound. It's just a box with a speaker in it. But when you combine the two and you plug the guitar into the amp, what you get is beautiful sounds and beautiful music. And so, well, that is true, combined with the right player, of course. But that's what makes the music. And in the digital realm, at least, but not only, as far as photography is concerned, of course, I look at it in the same way. We've got the shoot itself, where we're creating the image, and then we've got the post-production. That's where we really finish it. And I know a lot of people say, oh, I want to get it right in camera. I do too. I want to get it as right as I can get it, because I already know how I'm going to edit it afterwards. So I need to get it right for the edit. I also need to get it right, but in a slightly different way. Does that make sense? Yeah, cool. And again, I'm going to dive straight into Lightroom. If you've got any questions, or if you think I'm going too fast, or you want me to explain something in more detail, please just shout out. Okay? Okay, cool. So the first thing I've got to do at the end of the shoot is actually choose an image. And typically what I would do is I would go through this with the subject, with the model, and would basically choose some of the images that the model likes, because they need to feel comfortable with it. Remember, I've just pushed them over the edge. I've gotten them to give me some farcically idiotic expressions, but they need to be comfortable with it, because that will end up on social media or on Instagram or something like that. And I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable, obviously, right? So we go through the image selection process together. And then anyway, at some point we'll decide on 3 images, because it's 3 heads in a row. I've just chosen one. So I've just chosen this one because I like it. I think it's cool. So the first thing I do is I'm in Lightroom. I'm going to be hopping over back and forth between Lightroom and Photoshop. Okay, so now the first thing I'll do is I'm basically just going to crop it. What we can see here in the background is there's lots of stuff in the background. Like you can see some light stands and my clamps, which is stupidly orange, I don't know why. But I'm going to have to cut all that out, obviously. So first thing I'll do is I'm actually going to crop this. So in 3 heads in a row, I use a square crop. Very simple, it's just square. So in that, I'm just going to go into the crop tool, and I'm going to crop that. What is it with your quiff, Nick? Okay. Cool, I'm just going to do it like this. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, for all intents and purposes, that will work. Okay, the other thing I always do is, because I'm not using a tripod, I'm shooting this freehand, I'm just going to make sure that the edge of my table is actually totally straight. So there's a little angle tool here in Lightroom that you can use, and you pick your starting point, and then you draw a line to your finish point, like here, and then you let go, and it basically straightens out your image. So that's in the crop tool. So if you open the crop tool, you can see you've got the aspect, and you've got the your crop ratio, and then you've got the angle tool here. Click on that. See this little water level thingy? Okay, so you basically, again, you click your starting point and you click your finishing point, and then it'll basically straighten up. So that is cool. So, I like it. It's all right. Gonna move this over a little bit. Okay, so just for now, that'll do it. I'm just gonna come to that. I can be extremely finicky with this, but we'll just leave it like that. Okay, if you look at that, there's a couple of things. Well, first of all, we can see a little bit of background here. We're gonna have to fix that in Photoshop in a minute. And also we can see bits of the background here, that clamp. We're also gonna have to address that in a second. But before we do that, I'm just gonna I'm just going to change the look a little bit. So I'm going to use the faders in Lightroom to get me to the look that I want. What I have done is I have created 2 presets, 3 heads in a row, pre and post. That's pre-Photoshop treatment and post-Photoshop treatment. So the post-Photoshop treatment is basically at the very end, I'm just going to throw a little bit of panache on the photo. Okay. So anyway, okay. So I'm going to use my little pre-setup. Okay, cool. And also I'm going to change my white balance a little bit. Okay, cool. Okay, now I know it's a little bit tricky to see, but basically what that's done is it's applied a number of settings that I've decided in the past I like. And rather than me going through every little fader and I'll just basically use the preset. That also allows me to make sure that over time, that whole body of work looks consistent. Because with a thing like that, it's all about consistency. I need to make sure that, you know, when I'm shooting today, it'll look the same as a shoot that I did 3 months ago, and it'll look the same in 3 months' time. Does that make sense? So I need to make sure it's consistent. And if I'm taking each individual photo and I start fiddling around a little bit, you know, my eyes might be tired one day, or my screen might not be as calibrated, or the ambient light might be different. All of that has an impact. And so overall, what would happen is all of my images over time wouldn't necessarily look very consistent, and I need to make sure that they look consistent. So that's why I create those presets. It also saves a ton of time, by the way. That's the other thing. Okay, so that's not bad. It's a little bit dark, so I'm going to just kick that a little bit, and that is cool. So the exposure is pretty much the only thing, more or less, that I'm going to change here. And let's get the other end. That is. All right. Okay, cool. Once I've done that, I'm going to hop over to Photoshop. And actually, whilst that's happening, I'm just going to explain some of the settings here. So what's really happening is I'm crushing the highlights. I'm bringing the shadows up because I want to get. Whoops. I want to get more detail out of the shadows, which is also, by the way, that's why I didn't originally push too much light back under the chin, because I know that in editing, I want to bring the shadows up. There's a particular look when you're pulling the highlights and the shadows apart like that. There's sort of a particular crunch and detail, especially in the middle of the spectrum that you get. And so I don't want the shadows to be too bright, because I know I'm going to push them up in post. If they were too bright, then I would lose my shadows. So. Do you do the same thing for both men and women, or do you have different presets? Yes, in this particular case, yes, because I need to have a consistent look across the whole project. If I did headshots for people, there'd be a difference, obviously. Yeah, there would be.
Also, is there a reason why you start with Lightroom and then shift on to Photoshop?
Yeah, there's a reason. I do 2 things. I create the look in Lightroom, and I create composites, the composite part of it, in Photoshop. Composites means I fix things like the gap in the background. Sometimes when people throw up objects or something, I might take an object from one shot and I might composite it into another shot. We had a shoot that I did with Nick, actually, where he had an really old film camera, and in one particular shot there was just something about the lens. It caught the light and it was beautiful blue, and in the other shots where the angle was slightly different, it just didn't look like that. So I took the lens reflection out of one photo because I really liked it, and I then applied that to all the others so I get a consistent look. And it's things that. Yeah, so exactly. So with Dave, we did a thing where he had a coffee carafe, or whatever you want to call it, something like that. And he had a glass jar with coffee powder in it, and he was pouring the coffee into the coffee can, into the jug, coffee jug. But the reality is, you can't really do that. I need him to basically change his position. So what happened was, of course, in the original shot, there was no coffee flowing from the glass. But then I took some shots of him just pouring the coffee into the jug, and then I took some of the coffee powder from that, and then it was quite an elaborate process, but anyway, so it was probably a composite of about 5-7 shots or something to create the illusion as if the coffee was freely pouring out of the glass into the coffee jug in a sort of perfect way. Yeah, so that does happen with this quite a lot. There's a lot of compositing that goes on. All of that happens in Photoshop, and then after that's all done, we're going to come back into Lightroom, and we're just going to give it some gloss, and that's really then what finishes the look off. Okay. So anyway, cool. So, okay. Very super quickly. Again, you know, we're creating a little bit of punch. We're cranking up the clarity a little bit. That's mid-range contrast. A little bit of dehaze, which sits a little bit below that. Again, it just gives it a little bit of crunch, more contrast. And then I've created this this curve that really works for this look. So what you can see here is I'm pushing up the shadows a little bit. It gives it a filmic look, because that's really sort of the hallmark of film, is just that the shadows aren't totally black. They're a little bit above that. That's what I want. It kind of looks filmic. That's in my head anyway. And I'm also limiting the highlights a little bit, because I don't want them to be 100% white, because again, in this particular case, that's not a look. I'm also correcting the colors, and this is really where the consistency comes in. I need to make sure that my colors across the whole project look the same, or at least as close as I can get them, right? So I've changed the reds and the yellows and blah, 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 all of that. Cool. We're not really doing any sharpening at this point. We're also not doing any noise reduction or any other thing at this point anyway. All of that comes at the end. Anyway, so we're going to hop over into Photoshop. Okay, and the first thing I would do is I'll go in and I would just fix a couple of things. So for instance, right off the bat here, we've got a little bit of fluff, and I'm just going to use this tool, whatever it's called, I can't remember. this one up here. I don't know. What is it called? Hang on a sec. Oh, it's a spot heating brush tool. Of course it is. I can never remember the names of these things. Anyway, so I'm just fixing a couple of things. You know, this can take quite some time, depending on how dirty somebody is. And also, we've got a few, hairs in there. I'm going to fix them. You know, this would normally take quite a while. And there's no rhyme and reason to this. It's just really, you know, I look at it and I kind of think, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't know why. I just don't like it. There's a.
I do similar stuff, and while I'm doing it, I'm thinking, no one's ever going to notice.
I know.
While I'm doing it, it's annoying me.
I know,
Yeah,
and that's the thing. Absolutely. If it annoys you, it's going.
Yeah.
It's basically that. Now, I know my board really well, and I also know that there's certain things, like certain stains on there, that I hate, and I always get rid of them. One of them is this little green thing. I don't know what happened there, but I don't like it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use content-aware fill, which basically means I select this little section. I'm going to use content-aware fill, and what it does is, through magic, it disappears. Swang! Super awesome. It literally took me 2 seconds to do that. So basically what you do is you select whatever you want to get rid of. Let's say we want to get rid of this thing. Easy way to get it up, press Shift and Backspace. You get the fill menu coming up, so Shift and Backspace. And then here, make sure that Content Aware is selected. You've got a number of different options, but Content Aware is, that basically activates the Photoshop magic. Or the AI, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, so, gone. Awesome. So that's cool, that's cool. I'm going to switch back to the spot heating brush. There's just like little bits. I don't know. Yeah, there's little bits here. These are probably paint splatters or something. I don't know. Get rid of it. And of course, any sort of, you know, things in the face, like actually, that looks good. Okay, I think I'm happy with that for now. That'd be cool. But that'd be the first thing I do. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fix the background. Now, for this, I'm going to use the lasso tool. Actually, I'm going to use the polygonic lasso, and I'm going to choose 0 feather. So I'm going to I'm going to select this area here. So what we've got is I want to get rid of all of that stuff on the side there. And I don't know how well you can see that. I can see that really well.
I think we might need the lights up to see that.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm just gonna do this. I'm just gonna do a quick thing. So here we go. Fix that in a second. Boom. Okay. All right. Cool. And now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try my magic again. Let's see if it works. It doesn't. Because we can see at the bottom there, that's not right. Right? Okay. So we're going to do that again. Okay. So we can go to Magic Mac 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the Content Aware Fill menu. And what that does is it gives us more options. Now, the selected area is the one I want to replace. And the green area is what Photoshop thinks it should grab the pixels from in order to fill my selected thing in. Now, I don't want it to grab pixels from the table. That's not what I want. I want a black background, right? I don't want Photoshop to pick, you know, stuff from like pixels from Nick's hair. I don't want it either. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to erase all that, get rid of the green. Okay. I'm going to get rid of all of that. Swing. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that as well, because that's all. Okay, okay, cool. On this side, I can preview my result. Okay, so I'm happy with this. I'm going to click OK. Ta-da! Oh no, it's gone. Magic. How long did that take? Like, probably like whatever, 20 seconds, let's say, right? Cool. Okay, great. Happy with that. Okay, so we've got another thing here. I'm not happy with that. I'm just gonna. Okay, cool. Okay. Try that first. No, that looks rubbish. So we're gonna go back to our Content Aware Fill menu. Okay, cool. Okay, so similar deal. I want to fill in this little area there. Oops. What am I pressing? Oh, I'm just pressing the left mouse button. Oh, yes. Yeah, okay. So basically plus means I'm adding areas that I want Photoshop to grab the pixels from. If I click minus, I'm subtracting areas. So I want to get rid of areas. I don't want Photoshop to grab pixels from the shirt, for example. So I'm on minus at the moment, which means I'm erasing all of that. I also don't want Photoshop to pick stuff from the table at this point anyway. Fix that, so that's okay. Okay, and again, I've got my preview on this side here. That looks okay to me. You know, I can basically adjust this. If I, make a selection and it doesn't look right, I'll just go back and I'll change the selection. I can add areas in and take areas out. Perfect. Okay, cool. So we've got that showing. Okay, cool. Now, I'm still annoyed with this little bit of the table. That annoys me because I want that table to go all the way from one side of the image to the other side. I don't really want a little gap there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fake it. So I'm going to select this area here. Oops. There you go. Cool. Now that's the area I want to fill in with table. And I could use the clone stamp tool and all of these fancy things, but I'm not going to, because I'm going to use magic. I'm going to go back to my Content Aware Fill, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell Photoshop to ignore all of that black stuff and only, ignore all of the black stuff and only pick stuff from the table. Oh my God. You can see on the right-hand side, it's just filled in the table. And it's not 100% perfect right now, but it's okay. It's good enough for us. That'll do. Okay, cool. I don't have to be super accurate with that. There's a reason for that. And that will become obvious in a minute. Okay, so cool. What we've got is, we've got Nick, we've got a perfectly clean background. We've got a table fixed. Awesome. Now, we can fix the skin. So I'm going to use a technique called frequency separation. And it's so at the base of it, it's a fairly involved technique, and really, to be honest with you, we could do a whole evening's talk just about frequency separation. So I'm gonna shortcut that a little bit. I'm just going to show you how I use it. Frequency separation is used to basically smoothen out skin, textiles, so on and so forth. So I've created a little action in Photoshop, again, a little preset that just speeds things up a little bit. It does a number of things. Sure, go for it.
Have you tried the neural filters?
Yes, and they are okay.
Yeah.
You know, it really depends. Look, if you're taking a picture and you just want to kind of, you know, fix the skin a little bit, all cool. It's a family picture, something like that.
When they first come back, they're a bit rubbish, but I think they're
They are getting better, and they will get better. Absolutely. But the reality is, you know, when you're doing something, I'll just call it on a professional level for advertising or something like that, it needs to be at a certain standard. When it's for print, for magazines, you know, for billboards, whatever. So the neural filters, as beautiful as they are, they're just not quite there yet, right? It's also, the other thing is, of course, when you let the computer or the software do these things automatically, you're passing all the decision-making process over to the computer, and that's not really what we want. We want to be in control of the retouching and the editing that we're doing. So we kind of want to claim control back a little bit. And the tools that we're using in Photoshop are, in a sense, perfect for that, because I can use as much or as little of it as I want. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm just going to select a little bit of the skin, and I'm just going to create a feather, and it's going to become clear as to why I'm going to do that. Yeah.
I missed the part. Which is the part you use it for the skin, the software?
Oh, okay. So I've created an action.
What is the name of the part?
Oh, it's called frequency separation. So that's the technique I'm using. Okay. So I've actually forgotten what the number was. Hang on a sec. Hang on a minute. Burp. Okay, cool. Let's select the mask. Okay, I'm gonna push our feather up to about 14. Okay, I'm just going to remember this little number, 14. Right, I'm going to select areas on the skin, and I've basically I've created a feather because I don't want the edges of the selection to be super sharp. I want to feather it. So I know that on this particular image right now, a feather of 14 pixels appears to be exactly what I need. Okay, and that's what I've just tried to figure out with the selection menu, or the masking menu. So, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select, and you can see I'm not precise at all. Actually, that's a little too sloppy. Hang on, what am I doing? Okay, so I'm going to select. Okay, cool. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a blur filter. I'm going to use Gaussian blur. About 8.5. Yeah. Push up to 12. No, push up to 9.5. There you go. Cool. All right. Swing. Okay, cool. You might not see very much of a difference right now. When I'm done with it, you will. Okay. Anyway, just trust me on this. Okay, cool. I'm going to go around the nose. So that's another selection. Boom. I can do the eye. Again, I'm not very precise at all, and that's fine.
Is what you're doing there repeating? You're doing a key.
Oh, okay, good. Right. So when you use an effect or a filter, if you want to repeat the same filter on a Mac, I don't really know on a PC, but on a Mac, you press Control, Command, and F, and that will basically just copy and paste the same effect. Does that make sense?
Whatever you pick from the filter gallery uses that same filter
Yes,
mask. So
exactly.
if you click on filter,
Yeah.
if you click on the filter menu, you see the top thing in the filter menu is a shortcut to Command F.
Yeah.
It actually shows you the menu.
Yes. So you can see here right on the top, you see that's the last filter I used with the settings.
Control F on it and say,
Yeah.
you know, because I don't use things like X.
Nice. Anyway, cool. Okay, so that's our skin. I'm happy with that again for now. And I don't know how much you can see on the screen there, but if I just toggle this on and off, that's before. You can see it's got like more contrast in it. I wanted to smoothen it out a little bit because we're not getting any younger, are we, Nick? Oh, well. I have to listen to that every week. Anyway, okay. Who? No. All right, okay. So we're happy with the skin. You know, typically I would do exactly the same thing on the arms and the hands. Anything that's skin, I'll basically treat in the same way. I'm not going to do that for now because I think we're getting the idea. All right, cool. So, and by the way, you can do the same thing on textiles, on fabrics. So I could do the same thing on the shirt. You can see there's like little folds in the shirt and stuff like that. I can smoothen that out in the same way. And that will work also. Again, I'm not going to do that for now because, you know, time's pressing. Anyway, cool. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna do this thing, apply image, which basically takes all the layers underneath, it squashes them together onto a new layer, and that's now my new base layer. Okay, I do that a lot. It just flattens the whole thing, but the difference to flatten image is that I'm keeping all the other layers that I created earlier because you never know, I might have screwed up somewhere and I might have to come back to that. Okay, and if I just flatten the whole image, I lose all the other layers and I'm screwed because then I have to literally go back to the beginning and start from scratch. So what I did was I created a new layer down here, right? Cool. And then I've gone into image, apply image, and that'll basically take all the layers below, it'll copy all of those layers together onto a new layer. Yeah, make sense? Okay, cool. And then that becomes my new base layer. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do now is, okay, I'm going to do some eyes. Let's do some eyes, right? I'm going to fix the eyes a little bit. Little eye retouch, super quick. Now, I'm going to fix the white of the eyes. The white of the eyes is one of these things because our eyes are not actually white. We can see some color shades, some color sort of shades in there. There's always a little bit of yellow. There's always a little bit of red. You know, especially when somebody's really tired, you know, they had a tough day or something like that, your eyes usually go red. So we want to, you know, we want to basically retouch that. Also, we always have a little bit of yellow in there as well. We want to pull that out, and I'm going to show you how I do that. So first of all, I've set my feather to 1 pixel because I'm now making a very small selection. Okay, so I'm going to go and I'm going to just select the white of the eye. And again, I'm not terribly accurate with that because we haven't got time. Okay, I've selected one eye. Now I'm going to press Shift, the lasso tool. Yeah, I'm going to press Shift, and now I can add to this selection because I also want to select the other eye. So you can see my first selection is still active. I'm going to go around, la 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 la, and now I have 2 selections. Awesome. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy this onto a new layer. So right-click, layer via copy. Now I have a new layer with eyes. Right now I'm going to use a saturation, hue and saturation effect. You can get that in filter, use saturation, blah blah, or you can press Command and U, which brings up that menu. Command and U. Okay, like hue, Command and U. Okay. I don't know how to write this. Hue. Whip. Right, okay. Anyway, so remember, I said there are 2 colors that are annoying in the white of the eyes. It's yellow and it's red. I'm going to pull these out, right? So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to red. And now I want to desaturate the red a little bit. Not totally, because that'd be unnatural. I'm just going to pull that back a little bit to about here. That's probably about right. The other thing is yellow. I'm going to pull the yellow back as well. And now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to brighten the eyes up a little bit. Again, we're not going to go, what do they say? We're not going to go full Tonto, because that would be weird, right? We're going to also not go evil. You know, we're gonna bring this up, you know, typically 1, 2, 3, something like that. Very little. It makes a big difference. You also want to zoom out so you can see more of the face when you do that, because when you're looking at the eyes just zoomed in, you're not really getting a full picture, and it's difficult to judge whether you're going over the top. Typically, you will go over the top, actually. So yeah, absolutely. So you zoom out. I'm happy with that. For now, awesome. Eyes done. Now the other thing we want to whiten up a little bit is the teeth, because nobody's got perfectly white teeth. Nobody. So that's not natural. So, but you know, this is make-believe, so. Yeah, of course it is. Anyway, so again, I'm going to use the same lasso tool with about a pixel of feather, and I'm going to go around, shrink. Okay, that's cool. I'm going to press Shift again because I want to add to the selection, and I'm going to go around the bottom here. And I'm really sorry, Nick, that we're looking at your face in such detail. You know who won't let me do this? Is my wife. No chance. So anyway, here you go. Oh, I mean, when I do retouch portraits of her, I have to do when she's not around, because otherwise, you know. And I'm still married. That's my strategy. Okay, I'm going to create a new layer via copy. Oh, okay, cool. Right, I'm going to be in here. So new layer via copy. Da, 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 da. Bang. Okay, that's my teeth. All right, cool. Same thing, Command and Hue for the hue and saturation layer. I'm going to go to yellow because that's the color that you predominantly see in teeth. And I'm just going to pull this out. And again, I don't know whether you can really see that, but can you see the subtle change in the teeth there? That's too much yellow. That's just pulling it out ever so. Again, you don't want to go full Tonto. You just want to go pull that out a little bit. Awesome. Okay, cool. Oh, and then the other thing, of course, that we could do is we go to Master, Lightness. That brightens everything up. And we could just make them super white. That's obviously not real, you know. And again, like something like that. That'll do the trick. Awesome. Okay, now, nice white teeth, nice white eyes. Cool. Okay, one very last thing. All right, so I'm going to actually, for the next bit, I'm going to make another apply image layer because, okay, so now I've done the same thing I did earlier where I just created a new layer. I took all the layers underneath, crushed them together, and now we've got a new base layer. There probably is, but it's the one I don't know. That's way too complicated, man. Let's not do that. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is, and this is really probably the last thing in Photoshop, is I'm going to do some dodge and burn. And I think most of you would know what that means, right? I've also created an action for that. Showing. Okay, so the way I do dodge and burn, there's many different ways you can dodge and burn, but the way I like to do it, I like to use I like to use curve layers. So basically what I've actually done is I've created two curves. This one, which is the dodge layer, where I'm increasing the highlights, if you want, I'm pushing the highlights. I've created a curve that basically pushes the highlights, especially in the mids. Okay, so I'm gonna use that in a minute. And then the burn layer is actually the exact, no, it's not. It's the exact, oh, sorry, I'm hitting the wrong thing. What am I doing? Here. It's the exact opposite. I'm basically dropping the shadows in the mid-range by about half a stop. That's basically what it is. So, okay, cool. But you can't really see that because I've created two black masks, which means for now, you're not going to be able to see any of those changes. And I'm going to simply paint them in, which, by the way, is why I love using Wacom tablets. It literally allows me to paint things in like I would with a pen. Well, it's a pen, right? And I cannot overstate what a difference that made when I changed from doing all my editing with a mouse to using one of those tablets and a pen. It's sped up my edits incredibly. It's it's given me the ability to be a lot more precise, and it's just a difference like day and night. So you can do these things with a mouse. It's just really annoying. Your wrist is going to hurt and it's going to take forever. Okay, so anyway, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start with the dodge layer. So we're going to increase the highlights. So I'm going to go onto my my mask layer. I'm going to choose the brush tool, and I'm going to go in a little bit, not quite as much. And now what I'm going to do is, this is super simple. I'm going to choose a hardness of 0, so super soft brush. And by the way, if you press Control and Option, it works with the mouse as well as the pen. If you move your mouse or your pen from right to left, you make your brush bigger or smaller. Ah, and if you move it up and down, you make it softer or harder. No need to go into any menus anymore. Oh my God. So Control and Option is all it takes. Press Control and Option, up, down. So I want a super soft brush, and I'm going to like use a brush about that size. Okay, so I want to increase the highlights. I'm going to simply paint over all the bits in the image that are bright or highlights. So for instance, in the hair, I'm just going to brush over there. Oh, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the opacity for all of that to about sort of 25, and the flow as well. I'm going to do that. Okay, cool. And I'm going to switch my brush color to white. And what happens is I'm painting on my black mask, and by painting on the black mask with white, what I'm effectively doing is I'm killing off the mask and I'm revealing what's underneath. All right, and that's my curve layer. So, but I've changed the opacity because I don't want to go too nuts. And also we're gonna change that a little later. So we want to control that a little more. Anyway, so now I'm happily brushing. Okay. Then we've got some highlights there. Okay, so the other thing you can do with that technique is you can brighten up certain areas of the image. Very often what you find is like dark areas, dark rings under the eyes. A very simple way of just, dealing with that a little bit. I'm not retouching them out. That's a different ballgame. I'm just gonna brighten it up ever so slightly. Okay, cool. Then what else we've got? Some here, some there. I know what you're thinking. It looks awesome. No, what you're thinking, I can't really see what he's doing. Yeah. I can't see any changes. I know. Oh, can you see the brush? Oh, can you now? Okay, cool. So, okay, I'm just going to carry on. You just have to trust me on this. All right. Cool. Okay, so I'm just going to. And again, remember, obviously you would spend a lot more time on this normally, but for now, this will do the trick. Ta-ta. So I'm literally just looking at the image. I'm thinking like, where are the bright areas? And I'm just going to accentuate them a little bit. And to know he won't see that, but okay, cool. And again, I'm doing it like a super quick job. And you can see how fast that is with the pen, right? With the mouse, you'd be like mousing around. Nope, not with the pen. Yeah, I mean, a couple of weeks maybe, to be honest. You just have to, basically what I did was I put the mouse away for a couple of weeks. I went all in with the pen. And yeah, it took about 2 weeks or something. And then, but there's still certain things that I prefer the mouse for. Like for example, when I make selections and I have to be super precise, I just like the slowness of the mouse for that. I just don't like the pen for that. You just find your own kind of groove with that sort of thing. Anyway, cool. Okay, we're going to call that good. Now I'm going to use the burn layer. Now I'm going to go into the shadows, and I'm going to make the shadows a little deeper. Okay, so I'm just simply going to look at darker shadow areas, like on the shirt here, for example, and I'm just going to go over that. And again, I'm just going to do a super quick job here. So, thing, too dramatic. Da-da-da. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Good. And same thing in the face or in the hair. It's going to go with the dark bits. So what dodging and burning does, you remember I said earlier that shadows and highlights create shape. They create depth in a photograph. That's what I'm doing here, as I'm creating more three-dimensionality, if you want to call it that. But I'm just creating a little bit more depth. So I'm just looking at some of the darker areas, and I'm going to make the darker areas darker and the lighter areas lighter, where I want it to be. Okay, cool. Right, okay, cool. So, okay, now, before, after. Before, after. Lots of little changes have big results. You couldn't really see it when I was doing it, you just had to trust me, but in the end, it will make a big change. And what it really does is it just evens things out a little bit, right? That's the plan anyway. Again, usually that would take a lot longer, but here we are. All right, cool. So we've dealt with the skin, we've dealt with the eyes, we've brightened up the teeth a little bit, we cleaned the image up, we fixed the background, we did some dodging and burning, we call that good. We're now gonna save, and what that does is the beautiful Adobe allows us now to basically bring that image back into Lightroom. So we're going to go back into Lightroom. We're going to wait for that to happen. There is magically it's reappeared in Lightroom. I didn't have to save that image, go back into some folder, open it up in a different software, none of that jazz. I just basically press Command S, I save the whole thing, and it now magically reappears in Lightroom, and I can continue my edit. So this is really the last step. So remember we started in Lightroom originally. We kind of created a look, set the colors a little bit, made it a little bit grungy. We then went into Photoshop and we did a lot of compositing. We fixed the background, we fixed the skin and all that kind of stuff. Now we're back in Lightroom. Actually, no, I tell a lie. I forgot something huge. Anyway, the final thing, oh my God. Anyway, I'm going to deal with the background. Right, totally forgot about that. Duh. Right. I'm going to change the background a little bit because I want to add some texture. I've shot this against the black background. This is what you asked me earlier. I shot this against the black background, but the 3 heads in a row look has some texture on the background. This is a texture that consists of 2 layers. I believe one was a concrete slab and the other one was an icy window with some scratches. So, scratches, concrete slab. Oh, it wasn't a concrete slab, it was like a kitchen floor thingy. Put them together, you get this. Awesome. That's exactly what I like. I've grouped them together so I can create one mask, because what I want to do now, obviously now I have the texture going over the whole shebang. I only want that texture to be over the background. So I'm simply going to use my brush tool again. I'm going to switch my color to black because I have a white mask at the moment, and I'm going to paint the texture out over wherever it crosses into Nick, basically. So super simple. Now I'm going to change, obviously I'm going to change the opacity to 100%. Cool. Okay. So now we're just going to go and I'm just going to paint over the face, actually. Again, here's a funny thing. We don't have to be super accurate. The reason being is I'm not selecting Nick. I'm not being super accurate because I actually want the background to ever so slightly bleed into the lines of his body. Only by a few pixels, only very little. That's what gives it realism. Okay? Because in real life, light bleeds into other things. That's just what happens. So if he was perfectly selected, the contrast of those lines would be way too hard. So that would give you an unrealistic look. You want that background, in a sense, to just bleed a little bit over the lines, which is why I'm using a soft brush and I'm basically brushing very close to the line, but not over it. See, if I went over it, you can see it doesn't work. Anyway, so I'm just going to go to the edges a little bit. Okay, cool. And again, I'm not, just going to do this very quickly. Okay, cool. And as always in this game, time is money. And if we can do something in 1 minute, then that's better than taking 20 minutes. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So we've got the outlines. Now, if you look over here, on my mask, I can now see what I've painted on. And so that just gives me a guide, so I can see, where I still have background that I need to paint out. So I'm just going to go over this, I'm going to paint it out. Sure. Okay, cool. See, I can see on the shoulders there, I'm missing some bits. Oh, come on. Missing some bits. So cool. Okay, 6 bits here. All right, cool. All right, well, let's give or take. Okay, we'll call that good. All right, now we're going back into Lightroom. Cool, so, showing. All right, well, literally, it's going to be 2 more minutes and then we're done. All right, cool. So let's wait for that to come back. Just save it. Just save the image, like Command S. And it basically just saves it. And then that file will automatically reappear in Lightroom. So you don't have to do anything. You don't. Nope. None of it. Okay, now, very last thing. We're just going to do, we're going to use, the second preset that I've made, which I call 3 heads post. And what's happened here is I've created a couple of things because we've dealt with the eyes, but really what we haven't done is we haven't really dealt with the iris. And what I've done is in this particular preset, I'm going to just, I've basically pre-made those. Also sometimes it's a good idea to brighten up the face a little bit. Because we obviously want the face to stick out. So I've just created a mask there. Okay. All right, cool. We'll call this good. There's very little that's happening in this particular preset. I'm just going to sharpen it. I'm creating a sharpening mask, so I'm only sharpening him and not anything that I don't want to sharpen. Again, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. Cool, okay. And there is the finished image. Shebang. Cool. And
thank you very much indeed, Kersten. A lot to take in there, a lot of technical stuff there, I'm sure. You won't have followed that all. You probably couldn't do that same level of detail that Kirsten's done tonight in that sort of time. But hope you got some elements and some tips from it that you could use. I know I got 1 or 2 myself. And have a go at something like that. A lovely project, lovely idea. I'll have a go. Definitely gonna have a go myself. I'm sure won't be doing that nearly as well as that, but at least I'll have a go. So thanks very much to Kersten and also to Dave and Nick as well for their input tonight. Thanks again, guys.
cool. Before you go, by the way, I've got some Camera Shake podcast coasters for y'all. So.
Are you just going to throw them out?
Yeah, Nick, if I just leave that with you, just hand them out, that'd be cool. All right, great. So again, that was a lot to take in. I know. That's why we've recorded it. And also, of course, you can, if you check out episode 47 of the Camera Shake podcast, you'll find the whole edit process. again, I'm going through pretty much the same thing. So again, you know, if that was a little much, you can go through that at your own pace, you know, take in some of the techniques, try them out, and hopefully that will make you better as a photographer and as an editor. So thank you very much, guys.